Hello and welcome to Gooners in America, where half of
Gooners in
the
America.
cast.
Gooners in America wasn't our name ever, and it still isn't our name.
Okay, so I was gonna say Gooners in America, where half of our crew is sick. Clearly, that welcome to the
This
Gooners
is the Gooners
podcast.
podcast. As you can see from Andy's beautiful face, which looks like 4 Arsenal players turned around. But yeah, we are. Everyone in the U.S. is sick right now with a cold, so we're going to be coughing and hacking our way through this. But
I'll do my best to mute as much as I can.
yeah, so Andy, by the way, is a real estate magnate. I don't know if you guys know this, but he's now the proud owner of 45 different homes as of this weekend. Are you busy?
Yeah, I told you last week, Mike, that the funds that we make from this podcast would go to my real estate empire.
Yeah, is there any money left?
There is, just not for you.
Lewis, he goes. I try to email him or text him something about like the particulars for this podcast. He's like, can't talk right now. Buying a mountain home,
second mountain home,
and yeah,
I'm too good for this.
And I have this like memory of when I was in Denver a few weeks ago. He was talking to me about how his mother and father-in-law were thinking about getting a home in the mountains. So I'm like, is he really trying to act like he's buying a home?
And then I told you
he's actually like scouting out locations.
Lewis and Ola, I'm gonna tell you a little something about how to get rich quick. You buy things with other people's money.
Oh yeah, I heard that on Shark Tank actually. So yeah, good advice. I heard that advice there from Kevin O'Leary on Shark Tank. Yeah, so he doesn't like to give people his money neither.
Well, let's welcome our guests, which are some familiar faces. One is Andy, and thank God, as Justin says in the chat, we don't have to look at your face.
Justin? The Mexican Justin.
The Mexican Justin who hates Spaniards, yeah. I hope there are no Spaniards in here today because it's going to be rough for you, the Feeder League people. But
hey, we need to build that wall so we can get him out of America.
You should have built it at the dinner table at that restaurant we went to a couple weeks ago. We got Ola. We always have Ola on the Interlull pod. It's almost like a contractual agreement. Ola, thanks for joining us.
People, what's happening? Thanks for bringing me back on this Interlull special. Always honored to be around you guys. Thanks for the invite again.
It seems like a hostage video when you say that. I'm happy to be on this show.
I've got someone here pointing a gun at me. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
well,
you can see
we got Lewis. Lewis has been on with us before without a shirt. Lewis has been on with a shirt. Today he's got his Interlull podcast. It's great to see Lewis. I miss the two of you guys so much. It's only been 10 days since I've been back. I've gotten sick. I barely left the house. I'm in the fetal position. Lewis, how you been without me, man?
It's not been the same without you, mate. Really good fun when you was over. The one night in Sutton was probably the best night ever. You know, you got Mr. Lee Judges with the half pint as well. It was absolutely brilliant. Can't wait for you guys to come across the fund again.
Yeah, I was about to say, I haven't had the pleasure to meet Lewis yet, but out of all the people I've met from this crazy podcast, these two might be two of my favorites.
Oh, dude, they're the most huggable people I've ever met in my life. Like, I basically was, and there's nothing wrong with having this.
You nearly hugged me to death, Mike. Jesus
yeah,
Christ.
man, they're hugging all sorts. I thought it was a wrestling match at times.
I mean,
I loved it, though.
I did more touching of men on this trip than I've done in the last 5 years. So, and, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm here to say there's nothing wrong with that. So, so let's get right into it, man. It's been a while. I just want to announce we almost had and will have a fairly notable guest, the Right Honorable John Bercow, Speaker of the House of Commons, on Tuesday until this Brexit thing ended up getting in the way. Apparently, there's some things going on with Brexit this week. I hear
it's crazy out here, but Lewis has been quite vocal about it today. Actually, I don't get too much involved in politics, but Lewis has been losing his shit about it today.
We won't do the Celtic-y thing in here either, but because of that, we didn't pod on Tuesday. we haven't talked about the last couple of games. The good news, I guess, is there's not a whole lot to talk about with the last two games. But we will be having John on most likely right after the North London Derby. So he will be rescheduling. And I will not be calling him John to his face because he's a little more right and more honorable than I am.
So we're going to call him Jonathan, or
what? Well, I was just going to ask, what are you going to call him?
You call him Oliver's dad because he has a son named Oliver, just like Andy does. So let's take a few minutes and just kind of talk about the Lisbon and Wolves game. Andy, you got a couple of comments?
Yeah, nothing too crazy. I mean, with Lisbon, it was so long ago. Whenever we see mass lineup changes, we see a team struggle to find form. I think that's what we saw. We were clearly the better team on the pitch, but we couldn't break their organized back line. I mean, they obviously came for a draw. But Mike, I mean, I asked the question, was it a good match for us to get away with? I mean, undoubtedly there was just such a bad kind of cloud over it with Welbeck going down, and he's such a loved figure in that dressing room. But do you think that we should be better when we make those big changes? I mean, you look at like a City, for example, they could take their 11 and subtract 5 players and the team still roll. Is it just a matter of these young guys getting used to this system or what? Because I feel like we should do better.
Well, we should. Again, it's a learning process in a lot of different ways. And I think the context of the match at the time, before we knew what was going to happen on the weekend, was that we just kind of needed to get through this game without injury, ironically enough. It's a foregone conclusion we were going to get through, and it's a foregone conclusion we're probably going to get through as leaders of the group, whether in this game or the next one. So, drawing at home dreadfully to Lisbon, is it that big of a deal? No. I mean, would it be nice to be able to take care of business? Absolutely, but the one thing you couldn't afford to do was end up having a guy miss the rest of the season from an injury, and that was probably the worst part of it. The game itself was so dreadfully boring. I literally fell asleep. I mean, it's the first game I hadn't been at in 5 or 6, and I slept through the entire first half. The only thing that woke me up was the sound of a bone cracking.
Yeah,
Lewis, what was your take from that game? I mean, was it kind of like it is what it is, or was it disappointing?
Sorry, Andy. For me, we wasn't really. I don't think we created very much. I think the Welbeck injury, the timing of it, kind of slowed us down in some respect, and it was playing on the guy's mind, and it felt like when Eduardo done his leg.
Yeah.
Arsenal on top, playing really well, and then all of a sudden, like a big character of the team, gets taken out, and then all of a sudden you're thinking, oh, do I really want to put myself in this challenge, that challenge? Is he all right? Do you know what I'm saying? I think it was a big mental blow for that Welbeck injury. I think it had a massive impact on the team.
Yeah, I agree. And Lewis, before you go to Ola, Mike, I want to ask Lewis quick, because he and I have the same thoughts on this. With Welbeck being injured, and then Ola, you can jump in at the end. With Welbeck being injured, this is going to kind of force our hand in January to go for a attacking player. And there's been a lot of Arsenal supporters saying let's pull Reece Nelson out of his loan, even if we even can, right? We don't know. You and I kind of have the same thought. Leave him where he is. He needs to grow and be. Have you changed that opinion, or do you think go for a different player and then let Reece Nelson kind of still can learn his trade away from our club?
Oh, wow. What a question to ask. It can work either way, really. I'm looking at the form of Reece Nelson. He's gone out there at such a young age to a foreign country, and he's literally hit the ground running out there. And I feel at the moment...
What is in the background?
I thought, what the hell's going on back there?
Either a television is on, or there are some things that go on at Lewis's house, and I got to go back over and investigate.
Oh, shit.
I just feel he could play his way back in January. I do believe we have a clause in the loan contract to bring him back if necessary. For me, it'd be better to bring somebody like Reece back, because he knows the team, gets along well with the team. We wouldn't have to spend any money to bring somebody in, and you know, the time spent to find another left winger, because there's not many out there. For me, it would be a very, very good fit. I think we should bring him back.
Well, I'd respectfully disagree there. I think he should be left out there to finish his loan run, because what's he gonna do? Come back, play a few games here, a few games there. He's in the team for Hoffenheim now, playing in Champions League. He's challenging the top echelon of the Bundesliga, the very good teams out there in Bundesliga team, playing against Bayern Munich the other day. I mean, it was incredible. So I think, you know, playing those type of high profile games out there and doing well can only do him a world of good. We know he's our player. He signed the contract before he left, so he's gonna be back ready for when Emre is gonna really want to do his good work. Because let's not forget, this is a transition season, so Emre doesn't have to get everything right in this season. You know, he's got this season to lay the foundation of what he really wants to do. Now we know, moving forward, Reiss Nelson is in his plans because he signed him, and you know, I think he's with a good club with a very, very good manager for young players that he can learn a lot from, and that can only mature him, being in another country, playing within another culture, away from London, where he's always known and been around. So, you know, we're gonna get a much better player from it. One of the other things that I really regret was letting Serge Gnabry go so early, because he's doing so well out there in Germany, and you can see all these young pool of players going to Germany and tearing it up out there. And you know, we've got one of our own over there now, and I don't think Nelson has to rush to come back. We've got Eddie Nketiah here, and if need be, you know, we've got owner that now has 100% of the club. Put your hand in your pocket, give Emre the tools he needs to go and buy the players he needs to. If there's a remit for him to get into top four. But I don't even think, even this season, that it has to get into top four. It's what we'd like. It's probably what we'll be looking at. That probably will be an objective that they were looking to work with. But I don't think it's a do or die situation for him to actually go and get top four this season. So for me, it's all about improving what we have right now. And Nelson being away, he's improving. He's improving every day. So I think we should leave him out there, let him do what he's doing. And we got a lot of other younger guys there that we could use in Nketiah and Smith Rowe, you know. So all these guys can definitely play the attacking role if need be. And Ramsey, that doesn't like to actually play out wide, he did it out wide. When Wenger used to use him out there, and he did good. He might not like playing there, but he did well while he was out there. And I think, well, while he's with us and we have to pay him till he goes, you know, use him out there. If he's an extra body out there, that's how I see it. I really think we should leave Nelson where he is till his season loan is done.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It looks like most of the chat room would agree with that. By the way, thanks for joining us too. We got some podcast royalty in there. We got Craig Scott from the Same Old Arsenal. We got he's either in there twice or possibly Lee's in there. I'm not sure, because they both Craig and the pod counter in there. We got Ryan Koss, who's always joining us. Appreciate that, Ryan. Justin Trujillo is in there. And a few others, Danny from Burkamp Wonderland. So thanks for joining us in our infancy stages of live podcasts. The Germany thing is interesting. I mean, it is no feeder league, like La Liga is for sure. And when you look at how good Xhaka was when he was in Germany, how good Kolasinac was, Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, how well Serge is doing, how well Reece Nelson is doing. Is it possible for Arsenal to petition for a move to the Bundesliga? I mean, it's not. We would win that shit. I mean, like swap deal with Leipzig or something like that, and we're winning the Bundesliga every single year with these guys. Is that not how it works, Andy?
No, because we'll tie with Bayern on goal difference, and then they'll clearly smash us. So
we'll get done 5-2 every time we play Bayern, more like.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, no. It's not that we do well when we play German teams. It's that our players do well when they're playing for German teams. So I guess that probably I haven't really thought that through too well. Speaking of Welbeck, personally, I think Welbeck's injury doesn't necessarily force our hand to go into the market, especially when going into the market, possibly, as was pointed out in the chat room by Ryan, might stunt some of our returning players like Reece Nelson next season. I think another injury to a attacking player would. So let's hope that happens before January or doesn't happen at all, because if it happens in February, we might be fucked for the run-in. Speaking of Welbeck, apparently in the dressing room before the game against Wolves, the whole team had a FaceTime conversation with Danny Welbeck. He was all geared up to be a big motivator, something to make the lads come out guns blazing in that game. And it tells me two things. Firstly, bravo to Unai Emery for, again, thinking outside the box, doing, assuming it was his idea, maybe it wasn't, but kind of allowing that to happen to try to motivate the team. Secondly, it tells me that no one gives a fuck about Danny Welbeck. Because holy shit, Andy, that game, they did not look motivated at all.
We usually start slow and end with a bang, and this one just got slower and slower and slower as it went on. It's not all doom and gloom, Mike, because we got a point, but 3 draws in a row has taken us off the pace. The whole Danny Welbeck thing, they were even saying in the England squad that they had pictures up of him around the dressing room in solidarity. And so he's clearly a member of the locker room that people love, But for the Wolves match, I don't know if that's the way to start off a match. Because as Lewis said, we saw with Eduardo, when there's a teammate who you love who suffers and sustains an injury such as that, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, that could be me. So you're not going into challenges at 100%. It's just I don't know if that's the best way to do it. But I'm more concerned with this recent form because, we're now, what, 9 points off of City, or is it 6?
I think it's 8.
Or 8? Somewhere around there.
Well, 4 off of we're 3 or 4 out of the top 4, and I think 8 behind City.
We're 3 points behind Tottenham as it stands.
Yeah, I mean the difference of this season and last was you had 2 teams that were just absolutely blasting away and they were untouchable. This season you look at it and you're like, okay, well we can still be in that mix, but it's crazy. And so let's go to Leno quick. I mean, for me, he was the shining light in this match. He kept us in the game. Lewis, without him, we would probably have been down 3 or 4-0.
Oh, easily. I mean, I like Chig, and I've always said that Chig was never good enough for us. And I'm so glad that Unai has addressed the goalkeeping issue. I mean, you can even see with the way the defence plays the ball back, they are so much more confident in having Leno back there. They know that he's very quick in making decisions. He one-on-ones. I was watching back at some of the highlights of the Wolves game, and he's not rash. He always seems to time it just right at the point of when the striker's just about to hit the ball. That's when he comes out, because as the striker's swinging through, it's very hard for a player to change their mind in where they want to go on the swing through. He saved us so many times against Wolves, and I'm surprised he didn't get man of the match for his performance. It was absolutely brilliant to see.
Did he not get man of the match? Who did?
I'm not sure. I didn't really.
I think he got man of the match. I think he was the only player who showed up in that game, frankly.
Well, for Arsenal, yeah, I'll give you that. I don't know if
overall man of the match.
yeah, overall man of the match. But for me, without him, I don't think we'd be below Man United right now if he wasn't in goal this season.
Well, I mean, how do you explain what happened against Wolves? I mean, I saw the lineup. I saw, I just kind of felt like this was the type of game where we regained our winning mojo and probably won by 2 or 3 goals. I'm not saying Wolves isn't a good. I mean, they have of all the promoted teams. People thought Fulham. I thought Fulham would be a good team this year. They haven't been able to put the individual pieces together. Wolves have, and they are well coached, well talented. But I still didn't think they had enough in the tank to make us look like they did.
Yeah.
What happened?
First of all, let's pay homage to Wolves. I think Wolves.
Why do we need to give homage to Wolves? That has nothing.
Because look, I think they came with a game plan and they executed a game plan. They came to get a draw, or if they could have got the win on the way, they probably would have been able to do that. What they did was made us not play our game, and they found a way to do it. You know, like Andy said earlier on with Lewis. You know, it's a case of we were expecting to play better in the second half because we've been a second half team most of the season. And Wolves, by the way that their coach has got them playing, they probably know this as well. So this is probably a common knowledge to them and probably most of the other teams in the Premier League. Now, in saying that, they know if they get on the front foot, get a goal, which was what happened. They didn't have to do too much. They can just sit back and stifle our game. And in my opinion, they came with a game plan and executed it in a fantastic fashion. So for us, we now have to look at ways how we need to start playing for 90 minutes rather than being a 45-minute team, which is what we've been most of the season. We're a 45-minute team, and in this current climate, you know, eventually it's going to catch up to us because bar Mkhitaryan's lucky shot and maybe the one Aubameyang should have put away, I don't think we did much to even get anything out of that game. And that shows how much Wolves made us look. And Wolves didn't even play their best game. You know, I listened to the commentary and watched the game, and in my opinion, they didn't even play as well as they could have played. You know, in the game that we played them. So I think we got away with one there because if Wolves had came in, if they came in hot and had a bit more edge to their game, you know, not even Leno's amount of saves there would have saved us from getting a point out of that game. So we're still finding a way to grind the point out of games. Well, in the last 3 games, we've managed to squeeze a point out of it. It's not the end of the world considering what we're trying to do this season. I keep having, you know, my main perspective is what have we set out to do this season, and so far in my eyes, we are on track. Maybe we overachieving a little bit, but you know, if you look at what the funds that the manager had, you know, to spend at the start of the summer, you'll be thinking, you know, I couldn't even go to a strip club with this amount of money and do nothing with it. Nobody's gonna give you a lap dance with this type of money. I mean, in their world.
That's because you have to pay by the inch.
You know, in their world, 50 million is nothing. You know, you pay that for one player, and Emery made it count. He did what he could with the backroom staff that he's got, and we got all these players that we've got in at the moment, and you know, I just think we were lucky to get out with the points, and Wolves did fantastically well. We need to do better going into that Bournemouth game because I think they're a more serious team and they got a well established players that's already been in the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean they're staying up. Wolves and Danny has said it. Craig said it. I mean, Wolves are a solid team. Maybe we underestimated them a little bit, although I thought we were done doing that under Unai Emery. I'd expect to have to struggle to get 3 points up in Wolverhampton, but I
don't particularly think Unai Emery underestimated them. It might be the team themselves, or it might be a mental thing with what happened with Welbeck, and they maybe they got mentally jaded. Who knows? One of Wenger's old words. I love that word. I ended up not liking it in the end. But look, at the end of the day, in my eyes, I just think what happened with Wolves they said in the end that the players stopped even taking instructions from Unai. Unai was shouting instructions to them, and they were just doing what the fuck they wanted to do. So hopefully this international break.
That's some old habits. That's some old habits creeping in. If that's true,
exactly.
They showed him a lot on the sideline, and he wasn't really barking, or he just kind of looked perplexed. So I mean, it's just one of those games. Maybe we're not as good as people, as we think that we are. We played out of our mind against Liverpool, but maybe it doesn't mean that you're going to do the same thing the following week. So, speaking of Wolves welcoming in a lot of talented players, we're welcoming in a very talented player. Chig is joining us for the rest of the podcast. You got here just in time for the fun part.
Oh, great. Brilliant.
How you doing with the recent performance on the pitch? You staying in there, keeping the faith?
Yeah, man. I think just to keep it brief, because I know you want to move on, but to be honest with you, I think people are just getting gassed about the fact that at one point it looked like we were winning every single game. Now we've drawn 3, and it's the end of the world. We as a fan base are we're such an overreactionary fan base that essentially our mood depends on whatever result we get. We win with the best team in the world. If we lose with the worst team in the world. So to me, I'm confident we'll make this.
No, not really. I just want to kind of highlight 2 things, and I want to do a quick round-robin question. But I know that Brazil and Uruguay are playing at the Emirates, and they were interviewing Neymar. And obviously he's played for Unai, and his comments were, Arsenal are on a 16-match unbeaten run. They're playing really good football. They're in great form. Everyone knows how good of a great coach Unai is, and he's like, we know about Arsenal's quality, and so he's like, give the guy patience. That's what he needs, and he misses him as a coach. Now, obviously, he's saying that for the press, but
I'm not sure Unai misses him.
Yeah, exactly. But quick round the table question, and I don't want any explanation. I just want to figure. Okay, Danny Welbeck has gone down injured. We're in need of a winger. How much will you pay for Jadon Sancho right now? Mike, I'll go to you first. Just give me the number. I don't want to hear why, or you don't want him. I want to hear a number.
25 million.
Lewis?
60.
Chig?
50.
Ola?
35 million.
I'm not saying it's worth 25 million.
I didn't ask that. I just want to hear numbers.
I knew I was going to get in trouble.
Just want to hear numbers. So they're pretty low. Young English player, but one young British player that will be departing the club apparently to go to Germany, Mike, is Aaron Ramsey. It looks like he is going to head over to Bayern, which I think for them is an incredible piece of business.
Yeah, I mean the whole pre-contract thing. I mean, I'm not going to whine about regulations and stuff, but I mean, aren't they supposed to not even be able to negotiate with him until January?
I don't think they've negotiated. I think it's just a rumor that they're very interested. But here's the thing. Here's why it's different than Alexis. You're not seeing Rambo act like a little bitch.
No.
He's going to be professional up until the last match. I think he's deserved of a great send-off from our fan base. What makes me upset is if he's good enough for Bayern, why isn't he good enough for us? But I know it's coming down to money. So that speaks volumes. But, it's probably a great move for them. I don't think he sells the shirts to recoup, but he's going to be a great squad player for them.
Does Bayern pay players £250,000?
No, it's their sponsors that do it.
Well, but I mean, like, they're notorious for having a wage bill that is.
I mean, before we sold Theo Walcott, I believe Walcott was on more money than Lewandowski out there in Bayern.
Yes, it's very true.
So they don't pay that much money.
And Andy makes more. His wage for this podcast is higher than mine, which I'll never understand.
I must admit, Andy, I slightly disagree with you about the Ramsey.
Tell me why, man.
I think he's been playing like trash all season. Bar his wonder goal, I think he's playing like someone who's handed in their notice and is off. I really do. I see nothing from him. I see no life from him. I think he's taking the mick, to be honest. I really do.
Do you think that would be different if he had a long-term contract before the season?
100%. And it's unfortunate for me to talk about a 10-year veteran in that way. But I just think the way, the game that was telling for me, it wasn't Wolves. It was, what was the one before Wolves? It was,
Not Sporting.
Lisbon.
Where he was just overplaying the ball and doing all these stupid tricks that I just thought to myself,
Blackpool
does that, but it felt excessive. It felt like this guy's not taking this seriously. He's not acting like someone like we need a goal really quickly. And that was the first time I thought to myself, you know what, go now, like just go.
Yeah, Chig, I'm with you on that. I mean, I maybe jump to the conclusion of if you're not here for the long term, you can just go fuck off. I mean, I do, Andy, see a difference between the way Ramsey's conducted himself off the pitch, even on the pitch from a body language standpoint, and the way that Alexis did. But the fact is, you're not an Arsenal player anymore. As soon as you decided you're not going to be here next year, you're not an Arsenal player anymore. Yeah. And it's not, and I agree. I mean, the wonder goal was fantastic. The last 30 minutes he came on against Fulham were his best 30 minutes of the season. It's great that he scored 2 winning goals in FA Cup finals, which were deliciously put right onto his foot and head by Olivier Giroud. But I don't need him in the starting lineup anymore. If he comes on as a late sub, I want to see him make an impact, and that's the most he can do for us. It's time to wash our hands, and if what the team says is true, which is that they're not going to let contracts go down to the final year anymore, then let this be the last one.
And I think that you can't blame Ramsey for not having the contract on the table the beginning of the season. Well, maybe you could, but we don't know how good of the contract was, where the negotiations were. But to Chig's point, he looks like a player who has been off this season. And if we had given him the contract beforehand, maybe he wouldn't be. But that should have been sorted out by our administration the end of last season. You should never get to this point. So there's a lot of people to blame. But what we do know in Aaron is that we're going to get as the best effort from him week in and week out until he goes. And as Chig said, it sucks because this is a player that we've spent 10 years idolizing, who scored some very big goals for us in important matches and would bleed and die for our shirt, and would easily, if everything kind of fell in place, would retire an Arsenal player as well. And it's sad because you don't see that in modern football anymore. And he could have really gone down in that like grandeur of being on the ring outside of the Emirates with his name up there. And we're probably not going to see that anymore. And it's sad, in my opinion.
And don't get me wrong, I don't blame Ramsey for this. Listen, who wouldn't want to get the best possible deal for themselves? Especially after another player do the same thing.
You don't blame his agent just a little bit for how this all went down?
I do.
I mean, Lewis, let me hear from you. But the I don't like the recent coming out in the press and acting like the victim of, I don't know why they pulled the contract. I don't know why they pulled the contract either. I don't doubt that they pulled the contract, I'm trying to keep my big fat head in front of these two lights so that they don't.
It's working.
I literally have to be in this exact position in order to pull it off.
Stay there, Mike. Stay there. Don't move.
But I do believe, I think there's some fire where the smoke is heading to the whole thing about having verbally agreed to a contract and then continued to shop him around the shop window for other possible deals on a free. I think there was some shady business that happened with his agent. If you have a contract offered to you, how long are you supposed to be able to just sit there and stew on it and think about it? You know, the second he pulled his hamstring, he would have signed that thing. We've seen so many players for Arsenal sign contracts while they're injured. So, you know, I don't buy the whole woe is me, they pulled my contract, I wanted to be a legend here. And frankly, to me, that's almost as significant as throwing a strop on the sideline from Sanchez. So I'm in no rush to idolize him anymore. I don't even want to see him on the pitch. And yes, Schwinn, if you're listening, we've gotten in arguments about this. I would freeze him out and put him with the reserves because he's not a part of the team anymore.
Me too.
Lewis.
You guys are a little bit too nice when it comes to Ramsey. From the time there was an interview just before the season started, and they asked him, "Are you signing the contract?" And the smirk on that guy's face, that was the instant I was like, "Do you know what, Ramsey? Bye, go."
Yeah.
Even bother.
I know.
I already know from then that he already knew what his moves were. And if you're not going to be in it for the long run, get out of the club. F off. Do you know what I'm saying? That moment there, when he laughed at that question, that was it for me. He was done as an Arsenal player. I wouldn't even put him on the bench. I wouldn't even put him in the under 23s. I'd just keep him away. I'd have sold him. I would have sold him. He had the chance to sign the contract, and he didn't. It's either he's holding out for more money per week, or his agent has looked at it and thought, well, it's not much of a signing on fee. I'm not really getting what I want out of it. I believe it's one of those two there, or a combination of both.
And if you're thinking of Bayern and you're thinking of Barca, or you're thinking of United or something like that, you know, and when you arrive there, then you're really no different than the Chambo situation where he was played in our lineup and put in an important spot when he knew he was off. I mean, that was a really severe situation because it was against the team he was going to the day before he was sold, which is ridiculous. But and that was down to Wenger. But it's the same situation. So I don't want to beat a dead horse anymore on that. Lacazette finally, through his excellent play, gets a call to the French national team, and then comes out with injury. Chig, is he hurt medically? Is he sticking it to the French national team for spurning him over the summer? Is it just one of these cases where Arsenal finally has the balls to make up an injury so that the player doesn't actually get hurt on international break? What do you think it is?
Let's just say I guarantee he's going to face a late fitness test. Miraculously be fit. There's nothing wrong with him. I think it's sour grapes that he didn't make the squad in the first place. And when you look at the fact, did Giroud make it, by the way?
I don't know. It's a good question.
One more time.
Giroud's
Lacazette.
Oh, I don't know. I know Lacazette was an injury replacement for
Martial, right?
Yeah. So it wasn't.
They love Giroud in the French squad.
Martial does deserve to be in there, but if Giroud made it over Lacazette, and Giroud's not even playing football right now, I mean, what can you do? What can you do if you're Lacazette? You're just at the point where you're just like, you know what? No, call somebody else up.
I was thrilled to see
what he did.
I was thrilled to see that he ultimately wasn't going. I mean, obviously, if it does turn out to be a legitimate injury that causes him time after, then that wouldn't be good. But Andy, I mean, is it a legit injury? Do we have any intelligence on whether this was just kind of a gamesmanship situation?
You know, if you look at that French squad, they are so fucking deep that if you're getting called up, you likely want to go and you likely want to impress. I don't know if an athlete would say no just because of sour grapes, because you eventually need to get back in that squad. But who gives a shit? It's the best thing for Arsenal, right? Our best player right now is getting a long-term holiday. I hope he got a couple days away from the pitch. So, to be honest with you, I couldn't give a shit. French fucks.
It does happen though. People do get like their feelings are hurt, and they decide, you know what, I'm not going. And you know what? Like you said yourself, I couldn't care less if none of. You know how people were complaining that Holding went in the England squad. I was like, leave him out of it. I don't care if he's not in the England squad.
Yeah,
leave him alone.
For most of our trophyless years, the last 10 or 12 years before even we started winning the FA Cups, it seemed like every international break, every single one of our players was going. 70% of them would then come back with a niggling injury.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I mean, I don't want them to play. I don't want them to play internationally. I don't want them to make the World Cup and then be tired and not show up until September. I mean, I want our players to be good enough to be wanted for their national teams, but I think we're in agreement on that. The next thing I wanted to do, we're gonna do it offline because I want to move on to everyone's favorite game. I wanted to kind of get a report card of the 15 or so players that have played, more than half of this season for us. I'm not including guys like Nacho or Kolasinac or guys, Maitland-Niles. Kind of a rating out of 10 from all 5 of us, so we can average them together and pretty much rank the team. It'll take us probably 15 minutes if we do it on the air. So we'll do that offline, and then I'll tweet the results on that. But I'm thinking like 10 would be based on like a Messi or Ronaldo or Iniesta in his prime, a Frimpong type of situation. And then 1 would be the equivalent of any of the Americans that played yesterday against England. I didn't watch a second of that, but I don't think it really did our soccer / football credibility any good.
Who is the guy's best player? Who is the Americans' best player?
Oh, it's got to be Pulisic.
And he was good yesterday.
I see.
I mean, he's on another level, but there have been Pulisic wannabes over the past 5 years. Julian Green, who played at Bayern briefly. There have been guys that have supposed to be that next guy. Pulisic seems like the only one that's right now able to pull it off, but he can't do it alone. So yeah, we may not make the next World Cup, even though they're going to like 84 teams.
You are poor.
So next is the world famous Interlull game. It's the 3rd time in 3 months, but the last time until March. It is the game called What's More Important Than Arsenal. Ola, I think you've been with us almost every time we've played this game. I think Chig was with us last time. Lewis, this is your virgin appearance. Ola, tell us how the game is played.
You get given a scenario. You got a bunch of derelicts that actually send in these crazy ass questions. Shout out to the people that send in the question.
Shout out to the derelicts.
And you got to basically choose what would you rather do in those scenarios where it involves maybe a family, maybe something that can break your home into 2 versus the club. So I'm intrigued to see.
Yeah, we're gonna find out from the 5 of us how important Arsenal really is in our lives. So let's get started. We're gonna do a relatively tame one, and then we'll move into the good ones.
So we're not killing anybody. We're not throwing people into the sea. We're not throwing them to the sharks.
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
And in the chat room, feel free to express your opinion on what you would rather do. All right. First one. Over the summer, you get a call from a radio station saying you've been selected randomly for this great promotion. Essentially, you've won a free season's ticket for the upcoming Arsenal season, including away games. So you're going to go to 38, maybe 45 games, 50 games, depending on cups. It even includes a free halftime beer without having to wait in line. This is a great deal. There are 3 stipulations, though. Number 1, you must stay in your seats for the full 90 minutes of every game. Number 2, you cannot wear earphones or earplugs or anything else that restricts your hearing. And number 3, your seat is directly next to Adrian Durham. Do you take the deal, or do you just deal with watching the games from home? Lewis, let's start with you.
Well, I'll probably end up not listening to Andy Durham, probably call him a whole load of names and still go. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to that. Definitely,
All right,
100%.
Because he's going to be the whole time railing on whining about Arsenal deal. I mean, one game, yeah, maybe, but we're talking 50 times throughout the entire season.
I would treat him just like one of my clients at work, in through one ear, out the other. He cannot influence me, he can't whine me, he cannot grind me down, he can say what he wants, but at the end of the day, it's just his opinion. He won't sway me that way. I can happily sit in my seat and watch Arsenal.
So much like me, people can say stuff to you and you just let it go by without any comment, right? I mean, everyone knows I'm like that.
Yeah.
I'm not like that. All right, Chig, do you take the deal? Are you sitting with Durham, or are you sitting at home?
Well, I would take Lewis's approach, really. I'd let it go one ear out the other until he inevitably, because he seems like the type, gets in my face. And then the difference is on TV, you can't do anything about it. If he was to get in my face, I'd give him a slap. Sit down. You're an idiot.
I should have added more like, but you can't do this, but you
No.
But
I'd encourage the physical confrontation. But I'd go there with peace until he's right in my grill.
Hey, Chig, you seem like a lover. You're a lover, not a fighter. Come on.
Nah. Not if he's in my personal space. Just screaming abuse.
All right, Ola.
I'll take the deal. I mean, he's a cunt along with all the other cunts that
That's true. I've been to some games with some real cunts.
So it's not gonna be the first cunt that you're gonna sit next to in the fucking stadium. By
the way, I think at the Leicester game, I think I sat next to Ola. So what do you think? All right, so everyone's taking the deal. Andy,
we're taking the deal.
Andy has been quite outspoken about certain pundits and radio hosts. And
he and I got into it on Twitter.
And by the way, a bunch of our American folks ended up meeting Arlo White at Piebury Corner on this trip. I specifically did not go because I didn't want to compromise your stance on Arlo White. But if anyone was going to not take this deal, I would think it would be Andy. But what's the answer?
No, I would take the deal because Adrian Durham is one of the biggest fucking clickbait merchants out there, and this season in particular, a lot of those clickbait merchants have not been able to talk their usual shit. So how glorious would it be to sit next to that fuck and be able to just wipe the smirk off of his face and watch him put his tail between his legs, because he is a fucking just disgusting human being when it comes to this bullshit. Like the guy's a fucking asshole.
Anything else you want to say?
And Arlo White.
By the way, next week our special guest is Adrian Durham. Now,
oh my god!
Would you have Durham on the podcast if he came on? Not that he ever would, but
yeah,
I would in a heartbeat.
I tried to get Arlo White to come on, and
you tried in a great way, by the way.
Well, no, the guy was being a fucking douche. I said, "Why don't you come on the pod and we'll chat it out?" Like, we're not going to be dicks to him, but it made me laugh because I went back and watched the Man United Man City match, and City scored a nice goal, and he over the top was like, "That's the greatest Premier League team goal we've ever seen in our life," and I'm thinking, have you seen the 3 goals we've scored this season? Like, all Sterling did was make a run, and the guy stayed on. Like, the guy's a fucking douche.
Yeah, well, there you go. All right, so that was an easy one. Here's another one. This is a very odd scenario as opposed to the other ones that are completely normal and you find in normal life. Over the next 10 years, every time Arsenal win 4 games in a row in any competition, just 4 straight games on the trot, a permanent tattoo the size of your palm, which looks like the size of my face, but maybe it isn't. The size of your palm magically appears on your body. Every time it happens, you get to choose where on your body it is. So early on, you can put them in areas.
You get to choose what?
where on your body it goes.
Yeah, but do you get to choose what it is?
Yeah,
I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
All right, so you choose where on your body it is. So, first couple, maybe you can put them, your inner thighs so that people won't see them except for, if you want.
Where have you been, Mike? Talking about inner thighs.
But they cannot overlap. So every additional tattoo, you can't overlap them. So it's going to start to cover your body. So if Arsenal start playing really well, they're going to be showing up all over your body. If you say no to this, then you must take responsibility for Arsenal never winning 4 games in a row for the next 10 years. So you either take the tattoo deal and wait to see what happens, or you don't take the tattoo deal and we never win. We can win 3 in a row and then tie, draw, whatever.
Okay.
All right. So the tattoo, by the way, is a picture of Ola's dick.
Oh, Lord. And that...
I don't think I have enough body to.
Still just the size of your palm.
Ola doesn't find a picture of his dick appearing on his body.
Which derelict sent that question?
So tell us, A, would you take the deal? B, would your mind change if the picture was just the Arsenal crest instead of Ola's dick? Let's start with Andy.
I don't think it's worth it for just 4 wins on the trot. Because at this point, I would have how many tattoos?
You'd have 2, or you might have 3 from this season.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth it. Now, if it came out where it was like, hey, you're going to get 2 cups and you have to get some. Yeah, but so no, I'm not going to do it. Tattoos hurt, man.
Well, it just magically appears. You don't have the process of the tattoo is irrelevant because that doesn't happen. It just shows up.
4 games in a row, though, I don't think it's worth it.
Okay.
Whoever wrote this question is a fucking idiot. I think they're in the chat room. That's what I'm saying.
I agree, Andy.
All right. Let's say it's 5 games. That changed everything for you.
No.
All right. Ola might have a different answer because he might want pictures of his.
Look, 5 games on the trot. I mean, it's not really good enough to help you in your league campaign, really. If you're saying like 15 games, then I might have a different answer to it. But 5 games, not really. No, I do it for more games, but not fucking 5 games.
Are you gonna have 5 wins in a row?
Fucking end up like fucking Little Wayne with fucking tattoos everywhere. No fucking. You don't have fuck all left on your body space, man. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, but Arsenal's going to win shit, though. I mean, I thought you liked Arsenal.
Well, only 4 games, though.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's got to be more games.
Only 4 games, then you only have 1 tattoo, and you can put it on your ass. It's the problem is deciding whether if it starts showing up on the side.
Well, what would you do, Mike?
Well, I'll get to that. Hey, what are you doing? All right, it's 5 games in a row for the tattoo.
5 games in a row. No, it's too. The price is too low for that, man. You know what I mean? I'm getting lowballed out here, man. With fucking 5 games.
All right, Chig, what are you doing?
I love my brother Ola very much.
Well, you don't love
I
me that
refuse.
much,
I refuse to have any kind of image of his penis on my body.
Now, if you were walking around North London,
here for me, and you were brethren in the Chig.
Someone would walk up to you and be like, "Do you think someone would walk up to you and be like, oh, why do you have a tattoo of a penis?" Or would someone walk up to you and say, why do you have Ola's dick? Like, would they recognize that it was Ola's dick?
I don't know. You never know with Ola. He's the type to fuck anything. I don't know. So,
sorry.
Somebody, though.
Sorry, Ola.
For me, I might change my mind if it was the Arsenal badge and there was a Champions League on the back of it. But aside from that, fuck that.
All right. So if the Arsenal badge, 5 wins in a row, is a tattoo every time. So you guys are all basically
part-time fans, fake fans.
You're responsible for making Arsenal unable to win 5 games in a row.
Sure, I'll take that.
You're good with that, okay?
Sure.
Lewis, Lewis with the handsome young son walking around who would have to see pictures of genitalia on his body.
Yeah, that's not such a good idea. One, would you even be able to see the tattoo to start with me? I doubt it. I doubt it.
Black on black is you don't think you'd be able to see it?
Yeah, just about. Yeah, just depends on where you put it. You just about see it. But
I don't know what color Ola's penis is when I write this. I mean, I haven't seen it.
Plus, I wouldn't want a tattoo of my mate's you know what on my body. So no.
You get me? I don't even want a tattoo of my you know what on me. Jeez.
Like if you said something like Arsenal doing the quadruple and you tattoo of all the trophies that they won, the quadruple, then yes, I would definitely get it because then it's something worthwhile to have. But after 4 wins, 5 wins, no.
This is not them kind of questions, Louis. Yeah.
I would have the trophies that Arsenal won that season tattooed on my body, not anything of Ola.
The question was.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Whether you would trade massive success for massive numbers of tattoos that are starting to show up on your body, but I probably ruined it by bringing up Ola's dick, and I do that in every conversation and personal interaction I have.
Stupid question, Mike. Stupid question.
Yeah, it's a stupid question. Thank you, judges.
It's an obsession, though. It's turning into obsession.
Big up judges for that one.
I'm worried about you.
All right. Well, you and a lot of people. Okay. Next question. You are offered in one lump sum right now all of the money that you've ever spent supporting Arsenal in your life. Tickets, clothing, travel, pre- and post-game pints, Arsenal condoms, all the everything that's Arsenal related, you get refunded to you in full. You get to keep the memories, you get to keep the merchandise, all of that stuff. But you have to face a 5-year complete Arsenal ban. You can't watch the team. You can't go to games. You can't buy any more clothing.
Oof.
You can't go to Gooners. No pregame pub. You're basically out of the loop for Arsenal for 5 years. But you get a lump sum back. Now, if you haven't spent any money on anything, then that's probably an easy question. But let's start with Lewis on that one and go down the line.
Oh my!
If you're skint, this also could be a big deal for you. Get it all back on the 28th, by the way.
I wouldn't personally. The love and passion I have for Arsenal is way too much just to get it all refunded back. So no, I enjoy going. I enjoy seeing my mates. I love talking about Arsenal. I love watching them. Everything about Arsenal, I absolutely love. So I would happily keep paying to go and watch them play. So I wouldn't personally trade that all in. And as well, we're switching to Adidas next season. Like, I don't know if I could give that up, man. Like, there's going to be some live kits, some fire-looking kits, and I personally, no. And we've had some good kits before Puma. Now I'll just add that, no, I would not trade anything. Though that's something that I just love Arsenal too much to do that.
Do you love Arsenal too much? I'm not clear on that.
I love it.
Okay. All right, Chig, what do you do in this situation?
Well, to be honest, I don't think I've spent as much as you guys you guys religiously go to games, and I wish I could afford to religiously go to games. But for me, 5 years is flipping heck. I mean, I don't even think I could go 5 months, to be honest, without wondering what's happening, what's going on. Like, it would drive me mad. It would, after a while, it would really drive me mad. Even throughout last season, where there were so many times I wanted to just switch up the TV, I couldn't. I actually couldn't. So, for me, it's a bit of money that I spent, but not as much as, especially you American guys who travel, who spend money on flights and stuff. So I don't know. how much money that is. But for me, nah, no deal. No deal.
All right, Ola. By the way, I've just discovered that for some reason the video stopped changing to the people that were talking. I have no idea how that happened.
Yeah, and it's hard to fix. It's focused on Lewis right now for the entire time.
Well, I'm now changing it manually, but for the last 15 minutes or so, if you've just been staring at my face, people talking, you're welcome.
Your comb over's looking nice, Mike, by the way.
Ola, what are you doing here?
So let me put this in perspective. All that money I've paid Stan through the years, I get all of those back and not watch a game, not have nothing to do with Arsenal for 5 years, right? And after 5 years, everything comes back to normal. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, you can then do research and find out what happened over the last 5 years, but you're back in the game, but you're going to be without it for 5 years.
So it's like being in Guantanamo Bay for 5 years, then you come out and Arsenal's there.
Kind of like that without the
yeah. Okay. I mean, nah, man. It's difficult, man. It's not even plausible. I mean, I do too much stuff. No. What I'm trying to say is I can't do it. I don't know how I can live without Arsenal on a day-to-day basis. Even when it's like summer break, it's like what do you do? You know, and soon as we hear we're going on tour or something like that, you get excited about it because you're gonna get some football in there. And yeah, it's not when the team is not even like in normal working times and that. You just want to be around the stadium. You go to Highbury, you go to Hornsey. You want to be around it, and I don't know how I can pull that off, man. So for me, it's a no. Yeah, I spend a lot of money. A lot of the times I go broke because of it, but I'd rather
you get all that money back that you spend
I'd just rather keep overspending on pints and getting you guys drunk, throwing pints at people. Mike, you do that all the time, dropping dicks in people's pints. You do that all the time. So there's a lot of fun that, you know.
I do that all the time. Remember Bags of Dicks when those guys were sponsored?
You know, there's so much that to me all these memories are priceless, man, and you got to spend to do it. And I wouldn't swap it for anything.
All right, Andy, you're up.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't swap it either. You know, if you swap it, Mike, you don't get to interact with these beautiful people every day.
That's true.
So, I wouldn't swap it for the world.
You could buy new friends, though, with all that money you get back.
Yeah, but you can't buy a new Lewis.
Oh, there's Lewis. All right. You cannot buy it. I think that will be the title of this podcast. You can't buy a new Lewis. Here's the final one. If anyone in the chat, I know we don't have a ton of people in the chat right now, but if you want to ask any user questions, we'll get to those. Otherwise,
that's a good one from Russ.
Yeah. Well, and that's more along the line of this. All right, so we'll ask that. Russ, Hoggy boy, if your wife or girlfriend said it's Arsenal or me, and frankly, who of us have not faced that situation already? What would you choose? Andy, you've got a very entrenched family life right now. If they said you've got to move into your own pad and just be Arsenal.
My wife isn't stupid enough to ask that question. I will tell you a quick story, though. In 2000, it was whenever Thierry Henry left, I broke up with a girlfriend who had been with for 6 years. And my mom called and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I was so upset. And she was talking to me about Emily, and I was talking to her about Thierry Henry. And then towards the end of the call, she said, "Are we talking about the same person?" And I just went, "I can't believe he's gone." She's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And I said, what are you talking about? And there was just this general confusion. And she's like, so breaking up with a girlfriend after 6 years, or a man you've never met leaving Arsenal. I said, Mom, come on. Arsenal's always more important.
You see that stuff on Twitter all the time, like people lying in bed and like, I wonder what he's thinking of.
Yeah.
You know, those types of memes. But yeah, I mean, that Arsenal, yeah, there's a phrase in the gift shop, in the Armory gift shop, I think, by the area where they print the kits, that says something about, you know, my wife understands that she's my second love or something like that. I mean, I can't remember exactly what it says, but I took a picture of it once, the first time we went with the family, and Steph was standing in front of the picture with this miserable looking look on her face. Like,
I mean, do I go to the pub?
Code that he lives by?
Do I go to the pub as much as I used to? No. But I find it more enjoyable to wake up with Ollie and watch a match, you know? So, yeah, family does come first, but I think if you asked Chris that question, she would, like, it'd take her a while she'd pick Arsenal. She'd say he'd pick Arsenal.
Oh, she wouldn't pick Arsenal, but she would say you would. Ola, real quick to Russ's question, Arsenal or a lady friend?
Well, I just make one my mistress and make one my missus, and that way everybody is happy in it, you know. So who's gonna be the side bitch here? I think I'll make Arsenal my side thing. So.
All right, sorry, Ola.
Chig.
All right, Chig. You've entered a loving relationship with somebody who understands you, who supports you, who sits on that comfortable looking couch next to you, and you know, are you going to sacrifice all that for Arsenal, or are you going to kind of button down and catch games in the middle of the night on DVR when she's sleeping?
So I'm gonna just be honest and give a really boring answer. I'd fuck that girl off, and I'd choose Arsenal for the simple reason that the minute
I'd fuck that girl up. That's not boring.
Listen, I make it a bone of contention. On my pretty early on into kind of dating a girl, I will say straight, I support Arsenal. I love Arsenal. If there's an issue, if I even detect a little bit of an issue, then I start to back off. I've done that before, so yeah, I'll choose. Because the minute a girl starts telling you what to do on everything, you've lost your soul. So yeah.
This question, Russ. This question.
I thought you worked with human resources and all of that. Like,
what's your point, bro? It's about negotiation. HR is about negotiation. There's negotiation. If ain't no negotiation, then bounce. Look.
Oh, that's good. All right,
big up, Chig.
Lewis, you're a loving family sort. I'm not saying that the others aren't, but I am kind of saying the others aren't. Lewis, what do you do in this situation?
Well, the missus now, if she's loving and understandable, then she'll understand the fact that you have this passion for Arsenal.
Yeah, but she's not in this scenario. So
fair enough. Well, I will say to her, Arsenal was there before you, and Arsenal will always be there after you. So
now what if she's more than 132 years old, like Arsenal? then she was there.
For me, it's Arsenal. I'll probably end up finding a woman at Arsenal anyway, so then it wouldn't matter.
If we were talking about Natalie Portman or Arsenal, you know, I'll start following baseball. You know, I'll find a new love. I'll become a vegan for Natalie Portman.
Vegan. I think Joey already tried that, and she still isn't answering his phone calls. So, all right, we're getting some more good ones, but we have one more to do, and then we'll start accumulating some of these for March. The final one. You have what seems like a dream scenario. Okay, you've been invited to go to the Champions League final between Arsenal and I don't know, like Bate Borisov, some team. I mean, we know we're going to win this thing finally. And you're going to be there. You've been invited also by the most beautiful man or woman you can imagine, whatever your preference is. Not going to assume anything, okay? My WhatsApp group suggested Stephanie Seymour or Brad Pitt in their prime, and I may have added Brad Pitt to that, but the prime thing is their words, not mine. I mean, everyone's in their prime as far as I'm concerned. I'm just really trying not to offend anybody. And they're going to the game with you. And not only are they taking you to the game, traveling you to the game, and going to the game with you, but they're also going to have some crazy ass sex with you before the game as well.
With Brad Pitt?
This is a perfect. I mean, you could choose. I know you would choose Brad Pitt. So, what could be bad about this? Let me explain. While you're having a glass of red wine and getting ready to get busy the night before the game, Brad or Stephanie discloses to you that they recently tested positive for genital herpes, chlamydia, crabs, syphilis, and they're waiting on their test results for HIV, which they won't have until like the Community Shield. Now, you're able to wear as many condoms as you want, dental dams. You can cover your head in whatever you want. You can use the rhythm method, whatever kind of protection that you want. But if you don't take them up on their offer, they're going to find someone who will.
Hey, Louis, it's your kids still in that room. I know you ain't got a microphone, you ain't got a headset on. It's your
that person who takes them up on their offer goes to the Champions League final, and you have to spend 3 days in jail. So this is very complicated. You got all the great parts of it. You even get to make beautiful love to the human of your dreams, but you're taking a bit of a risk, I suppose. And if you don't take the risk, you're going to jail for 3 days and missing the Champions League final. So we're going to go to Chig on this first.
Sex with herpes. Okay.
I mean, it's only a chance because you're allowed to wear protection, and you can do the research on what that how that reduces your likelihood. Not my job to do that.
What type of sex?
Whatever you want, man.
So
full on.
No. Full on.
Full blown sex. We're talking the whole shebang. Or habang, as it might be.
See, I don't want to play in my life, for the simple reason that I don't want to play in my life. Yeah, I'm going to turn down.
By the way, we're going to lose the Champions League final also.
Yeah, fuck it. Let us lose. Let us lose. I'm not playing in my life. Not for us.
Right. I love that was such a tough decision. All right, Ola, I'm sure this will be a long, complicated answer, but let's get
shout out to Danny, man. He said he's hit the fucking full moon, man.
How come you're, by the way, how come the webcam's been off for the last 30 minutes, or do I not want to know?
I mean, look, I'll just wank, man. Like, trust me, man. As long as I'm not having blue balls, as long as I save myself from blue balls, I'll be good, man. Like, no, this herpes. I found out about herpes a lot from you guys. Fucking
what?
Yeah, Ocean, whatever. All these people is giving herpes to in America. Herpes is a big thing in America now, but I'm hearing Usher's spreading it around out there in America. But like, no, man, I don't want to be. You don't even need to have a full-on sex.
22 years, so
no, so I'm not in the herpes game. I'll do a lot of. I'm just gonna choke the chicken on this one, man.
So remove herpes from that, but the other ones are all still there. Does that change anything for you?
Remove herpes. That changes the game a little bit.
By the way, Mike, right now, Lewis is thinking, what kind of show am I in?
No,
I'm not actually. I'm just thinking like, hold on.
That changes the game a little bit, man. You know what I mean?
I'm not the HIV. Come on now, sir.
It's only a chance of that, and it's Magic Johnson.
Mike trying to sell you on this idea, right?
That's what I do, man. I'm in sales, so I gotta try to get. It's no fun if all 5 people have the same answer. Lewis, now that you've had some time to think about it, and you look like you're about to actually beat me down, what are you thinking?
I'm really, really, really stuck.
Ola's basically said business as usual. He's just going to keep.
Wait, to see Arsenal win the Champions League, but you have to take a big L personally. Ooh,
I mean, you're forgetting you actually get to experience the experience. I mean, it isn't going to hurt
because it might not ever happen again.
It isn't going to hurt right at the moment. It might hurt later, but.
Oh God! I hope people don't judge me on my answer. I think I might have to take the risk. I want to be at that game, and if Arsenal win it, boy, if Arsenal lose, then I'm effed.
No. I mean, that's why they're playing Bata. I mean, it's almost a foregone conclusion. You think? I mean, they'll at least draw.
We all fought that against Wolves, and look what happened. So,
all right. So
anything can happen in the final, but. I personally, this is Arsenal in a Champions League final. Not many people can say they've actually been to a Champions League final.
And less people can say that they've been to a Champions League final the day after fucking Brad Pitt. So
it would be a woman, not Brad Pitt.
All right, so Lewis is rolling the dice a little bit.
Nice one, Mike.
I'll take the risk.
The one thing I would say is if it all goes up shit creek and your life does go, at least you've seen Arsenal in the Champions League.
Yeah, I can die a happy man, yeah.
And you had that one sexual experience that you'd have. So I love how as the questions get more perverted, people start turning their webcams off. We're down to 2 of us now. All right, Andy, if you're still here.
Yes, I'm here.
What's your choice here?
Did you say it was just herpes?
No, it's herpes, crabs, syphilis, chlamydia, and they're waiting on test results from HIV, which they may or may not have. You won't know in time.
I mean, the HIV one.
Protect yourself as much as you possibly can.
I mean, the HIV one's the big one because I think the rest of those couple bouts of penicillin and you're back to being right. So
you speak from a man of experience.
You're actually on penicillin right now, are you not?
Yeah.
He claims it's for a chest cold.
I mean, we talking Natalie Portman again? Because there's.
It could be whoever you want it to be, as long as you realize that she's been getting around a little bit, or he's been getting around a little bit.
If Natalie's got it and then I get it, we're both a sinking ship together. But we get to see Arsenal win the Champions League. Sure, why not?
I mean, you don't get to spend time with her after the game. She's gone after that.
Oh well, then no, it's not happening.
You're fine, like spiraling down to being.
I'll just go over with Ola and have a good wank.
I've already that gives me an idea for the next round of questions.
We'll have a next round.
Right. I'm actually not taking the deal. You guys are fucking sick that you're even considering that.
I know you definitely would, Mike. Don't lie.
I love Arsenal. I want them to win the Champions League, but I don't like burning sensations. Not even a little. That's my red line. All right, so that is pretty much it. We've been at this for almost an hour and a half, so we're gonna cut it short. I think we had a lot of disgusted people in the chat room. I did not make up all of these questions, only 1 or 2. Thanks to Justin, thanks to Tom.
Sorry, Becca.
Tom Rosenhammer, our resident evil pervert can help with some of these. Justin, of course, is the master of these questions. So, but thank you for that. A question from Justin from earlier, by the way, in the chat room. Getting back to Arsenal a little bit, does it concern you that even though we haven't lost a game since the 20th of August, that we also haven't led a game at halftime in the Premier League yet
at all? It's not how you start, it's how you finish.
Tell Stephanie Seymour that, or tell Natalie Portman. That's his excuse. Andy, does that concern you at all? I mean, are you?
Listen, we're under new management. We have a new coaching staff. We're figuring out how this process takes. We don't have Unai's team yet. I mean, and look at Ramsey. He's leaving because he's not an Unai member. If he was truly an Unai type of player, we would be signing him at all costs. So we need a season and a half under Unai. We need a couple transfer windows for him to bring in his group of players. But listen, if you would have said to any Arsenal supporter, hey, it's not going to be pretty, but you're going to go 14 games unbeaten in 2 months where you typically struggle, every Arsenal supporter would have signed for that. And we keep saying, I don't care how pretty the football is, I just want to win. And it's happening, or I don't want to lose, right? It's happening, and we're getting there, and this team is getting better. And, Mike, last season for us podcasting was you guys all know, you all have your own segments. It was tough. We kept talking about the same shit over and over again. Now we're wondering, like, hey, we're not playing. Tough,
but Chig managed to do it 4 times a day, every single day.
But now the shoe's on the other foot, and we're talking about, hey, this hasn't been pretty, but we're not losing, and that I think is the big thing. And Chig even said earlier in the show, this fan base go extremes. We drew 3 in a row. This is fucking doom and gloom. It's not. I look at that Wolves match and I compare it to last season. We would have lost that. And so there's a big turnaround right now happening at Arsenal, and I'm fucking on the Emery bandwagon, man. I love it. I love everything he's doing. I love his tenacity. I love his passion. I love his press conferences. I love what's happening to the youth in this fucking team, that what he's doing with Iwobi and Bellerin. I mean, everything is on the up and up. Huh?
I feel like a poem coming on. Like Green Eggs and Ham. I love what he is. I do not love his Green Eggs and Ham. I do not love
Don't even get me started on the opposite of that. Dr. Seuss, what a bunch of bullshit that is.
Well, we've learned a valuable thing. I would be more concerned about the repetitive slow starts and the not being able to, even against lower competition, take a lead after the first half, if it hadn't been for what we saw in the first half against Liverpool.
But there it is, Mike. Like when you look at the grand picture, right? If we were slow start, if every game was like Wolves, I'd be concerned, but it's not. And when push came to shove and we played a team and we needed it, we had it. Against Chelsea and City, let's mark those 2 off because we just weren't ready. In a couple of weeks, we have United and Tottenham. And if we play United and Tottenham like we played Liverpool, 3 points are easily up for grabs. So
I have more optimism about those 2 games because of the Liverpool outcome, or not even the outcome, the effort that I saw and the talent that I saw, than I do concern about those games based on what I saw against Wolves and Palace. The 2 opposing forces there are, we can't even show up against bad teams when we should, versus when it's a good team, finally we're actually showing up. I would rather take solace in what we saw against Liverpool than be overly concerned about those other 2 games. Now, we could go out there and shit the bed against those 2 teams, and then we're right back where we always were. But I'm optimistic about it, and the first half performances are.
I think it's how we shit the bed, right? I mean, if you if you play against, like, let's say Man United, and you play a terrible match and you lose 3-0, that's bad. But if we go out there and we play like we have been, where especially against Liverpool, and then you're arguing like that's 3 points lost or a point gained, there's just the way we shit the bed. And ultimately it's like you want 4 from 6 against Man United and Tottenham, I think we'd all agree, like, if we came away with 4 from 6, we'd be happy.
Oh, I'd be thrilled with that because, again, we are not losing those games at all.
For this particular match, or these 2 matches, and this team, I see us getting 6.
Wow,
I do.
I
do. I feel like we should be getting 6 points from those 2 games.
All right. Well, we shall certainly see that. Anybody else concerned about the lack of first half leads, the lack of jumping on a team early and putting them away?
I mean, I'm just happy with the way that things has changed at the club. I mean, the culture of how we do things, the accountability part of things is changed. Look, everything is still growing right now, and I agree with a lot of what Andy said earlier on. You know, we're still trying to figure things out at the Arsenal, and it's going to take a little while for it to happen. So whilst we're going into the halfway stage of this season, and like I said earlier on, we've been a 45-minute team. Most of the games we've played this season so far. I still think there's a lot more to come from the team, and once they get the memo on how Emery wants to play, and he gets to bring all the players that he wants in, I think there's going to be a massive change and a massive curve in our 90-minute and our 90-minute gameplay. So for now, we just got to roll with the highs and the lows and see where it takes us. And like I said, you know, even if we don't end up finishing in the top 4, as long as we work hard, which is what Emery promised us right at the start of the season, I'd be happy with it.
Yeah, I think Ola's put it exactly the way I was going to put it, in the sense that I think you can't expect after 22 years of the same brand of football for these players to just switch on to Emery's style and way of doing things. I think it's unrealistic. Let's be real here. We were completely we overachieved in a way, winning all those matches in a row. And then it started gassing people and setting people expectations. Blimey, I remember when we went to that Leicester game, I had at least 3 or 4 fans telling me we were going to win the league.
Yeah, crazy, man. It was mad.
Yeah, we really probably should be 6th or 7th in the league right now based on...
Yeah. It's gonna take some time. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with wanting to win. And I hope the players are aiming to do just that. But let's be real here. Realistically, top 4 is the target. And I think we'll achieve it. I'm under no doubt. I don't think United will. I don't think they're playing for Mourinho, and I think it's a matter of time before that final nail goes in that coffin. I don't think Spurs are playing that great, to be real. I really don't. And I think if Arsenal, we're getting over the line despite not playing well. And as I always say to people, watch what happens when we do. And we've seen glimpses of it. Fulham, Leicester in the second half. Just watch what happens when we click. And when we click, damn, this league are in trouble. But I think it's going to take some time. And we're going to need to shift some Wenger signings out. Mustafi being the head of that list, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have a feeling he might be at the bottom of the list when we do the player ratings.
You see how Chig called Mustafi with disgust. Called Mustafi.
Mustafi. I say it with a H, just because he doesn't deserve
with disgust.
I pronounce his name mistakey.
That works. That works too.
Yeah. Even in the Wolves game, there was a point at which he made a challenge in his own box where he went to ground for absolutely no reason. And I'm like, you know, I was okay with that when I was still thinking he would learn. I said, give these guys 10 games, you know, not to start getting pissed when they weren't winning everyone after that, but to say, you know, we'll start to actually know after they played 10 games, are they improving? Are they not? We've seen improvement out of Bellerin. We've seen massive improvement out of Iwobi. We've seen improvement, you know, and a new life for Rob Holding. We're not seeing it out of Mustafi, to be honest with you. I thought we would, but I mean, he's still making the same mental mistakes that he did, and so I'm starting to lose my patience with him, not because he's not capable of playing a good game, but because he's capable of playing really, really bad ones.
But he's also capable of playing really well. It doesn't seem like the same player. You're like, what's going on?
Well,
so now you know how to defend. What is this?
It's the mental, it's the decision making, and that brings me up to someone whose name has not been said on this podcast yet, but in my opinion, had the worst game of his Arsenal career against Wolves. And this is a player who we always talk about. His name is Granit Xhaka, Andy, and clearly he is and took responsibility for the goal that we conceded against Wolves. But just overall, the first time I've seen him play truly, truly poor overall while playing next to Lucas Torreira. Just does he rebound from that game easily, or has he just given the haters all the food that they needed to keep hating? Andy.
He's not there.
Sorry, I'm on mute. It's scapegoat.
Or would you not agree? I mean, do you think he made one mistake in the entire game, or do you think he had a bad game?
He had a bad game, but what's he supposed to do in that scenario? If he tackles the player and brings him out in the penalty, everyone's up in Xhaka keeps getting too many yellow cards and he shouldn't have made that tackle. He didn't make the tackle, the ball went in. So what's he supposed to do? It's a lose-lose, right? But at the end of the day, Lacazette could bang an own goal in. Someone's going to blame Xhaka. Xhaka wasn't even on the pitch, and I made a tweet like, how the fuck did that ball go in? Xhaka's at fault. He wasn't even in the lineup. And a bunch of people were laughing at it. I mean, he is the quintessential scapegoat for Arsenal at this point. The team plays bad, blame it on Xhaka. It's absolute fucking bullshit. He had a terrible match. All football players will. There will be a time, Mike, when Torreira is going to be dog shit in an Arsenal shirt. And we will more than likely lose that match. It's going to happen.
I don't know. I don't know if Torreira is capable of playing a bad match, but no, I get your point. I saw his game, in my opinion, I don't think it's fair the amount of stick that he gets. I do tend to agree with you and Tom and the other Xhaka supporters. I won't use the FB word. But he certainly didn't do any favors to himself breaking out of that mold against Wolves. So he was whatever the opposite of the man of the match is, in my opinion. So our next match is against Bournemouth the Sunday after next. It's really our last Premier League opportunity to show that we're kind of headed back on the right track before those back-to-back games against Spurs and United. But going to Bournemouth, especially this season, never an easy job to do. Do you think that we come out of that game with points, Lewis?
Boy, if we defend like we do against Wolves, then I don't think we'll get a result. If we play like we played against Leicester and Liverpool, then I can see Arsenal win. It's all dependent on the player's mindset. You've got to go in that game thinking we're in for a tough game. We have to win our personal battles, because when 1 or 2, 3 players on the pitch lose their personal battles, it just rains through the whole team, and then everyone's playing second fiddle when you're like second to the ball. We have to start that game with a purpose, and if we don't do it, Bournemouth will absolutely rip us apart. And
they're not to be fucked with. I mean, and at home in that environment, and frankly, I think it's the next litmus test of where we are, because I still think this is in the proper context.
I still don't think he could be the going down to that ground, tiny, compact. The fans are on top of you. Those big Arsenal players aren't so used to those old school stadiums, and the Bournemouth fans are practically the 12th man down there, and they do cheer their team through a lot of they cheer their team on to the bitter end. It's going to be tough.
For for the start of the season, you know, the team took a couple punches in the mouth against very, very top opponents, and then we got to see how they reacted to that with gradually getting confidence back and getting a good run of form. I feel like we're almost, without losing a game, we are back in that situation where the team has kind of reached a bit of a slippery point. And, yeah, we're ahead of schedule, but we need to now see how this team responds, because there are some very big games coming up, and I'm a little nervous about it. If we end up kind of going on a December swoon and things don't go well, again, I think I'll look back at 4 months and say this is about where we should be, and let's not panic. But it does kind of feel like we're on the edge again a little bit. We need to wrap up. Any last words? Anything anybody wants to? Well, let's start
Mike,
with you, Chig.
Tonight we are foes. And I hope that the Avalanche absolutely destroy the Washington Capitals. And
you forgot something before the Washington Capitals.
The what?
The Stanley Cup champion Washington Capitals.
How many do you have?
We have one out of the last one.
Okay, well, and that's fine. But you know, if we're going to count championships, Mike, you know, we got you beat with 2.
Okay. All right. So anyway, that was the hockey talk for the podcast. We will be, we'll probably lose that. We're on a bit of we're in an Arsenal situation right now. But Chig, where can we find you? I appreciate you taking time out of your podcasting career to be on a podcast.
So anyway, people. Yes, you can find me on Gooner Eagle Eye 1, which you can type into YouTube. And as Mike has alluded to, I'll have about 10 million episodes, which you can watch.
I tease out of jealousy because you're a prolific content creator, and if I could get Andy to do more than one pod every month, then we'd probably be doing the same thing. But all right, and the YouTube channel.
Yeah, so that's the YouTube channel, Gooner Eagle Eye 1, and you can follow me on Twitter at Colossal Chig. And if I don't plug my Instagram, the picture behind you will come to life and text me, but not plugging it, so I better do it. So it's Gooner Eagle Eye 1 on Instagram as well.
Ola, what are you up to these days? Are you creating content, or are you a professional guest?
Nah, professional guests, if you say. Yeah.
And how professional?
No. On the more serious note, you find me on Twitter most of the time. I engage with whoever wants to engage and talk football, combat sports, or even movie series and TV series and stuff like that. Stuff like Vikings, all that type of stuff. So you'll find me on Black Scorpion 3 on Twitter. The same as my Instagram. Black Scorpion 3 is my handle. And YouTube channel that I used to have. You can still go and check it out. Capital Scorpion TV on YouTube. Check that out as well.
And CFAX channel 336 as well.
Yeah, you could check. You'll find me on all these handles.
Completely forgot. Me and Ola do the occasional boxing and UFC show where we just talk about any kind of boxing event or UFC event that come on. So we'll probably be covering the Tyson Fury.
Andy, you need to join him on one of those.
Yeah,
I never get invited.
I'll be ready to invite you. You're always welcome. Anyone that wants.
I'm always willing, my man.
We'll extend it next time because me and Ola got to figure out a date to cover the Fury Wilder fight anyway.
Yeah, we've got to do that.
We'll talk.
Lewis, you are a rising star in the internet Arsenal podcast world. As your door sways back, we're about to see Austin. Where can we find you, or do you want to be found?
I don't mind. I'm not. Me and Twitter, I'm still trying to get used to Twitter and replying back to people. So if you do want to find me on there, it's Lulu 41986. It's LEW, not LOU. Like you Americans love to spell Lewis. But saying that, on my Instagram, it's LOUIE Graham.
Perfect.
On Insta. So,
and Lewis, I find all of your opinions fascinating. I enjoy being in your presence. Can't wait for the first picture with you and Rhodesy hanging out together when he goes over. Rhodesy, he's a great hang, man.
May or August, that's when I'm coming.
Oh, that'll be wicked, man. Look forward to that. And Mike, that kebab you drove us to with the Uber, that was a mad kebab kebab shop there, man.
Shout out to the Holloway Kebab Shop. That's
man. Shout out to that kebab shop, man.
That's where you want to go after 12 hours of drinking.
Top kebab, man.
Sweet, Andy. Where can we find you?
I don't want to be found.
I will see you maybe not right after the Bournemouth game if we can coordinate a time to.
I don't want to be found.
You'll find Andy on the mountain somewhere in Colorado out there. Man.
In one of his many homes.
Hey man, players gotta play.
That's right. Treat yourself. Thank you for joining us. To this guy Lee, who joined us briefly in the chat room long enough to tell me to fuck off, and then continued on his way to Scotland to escape further persecution. But anyway, thanks for joining us. If you are watching this live, please pound on the like button. We have 4 thumbs up. If you're watching this not live, please do the same thing. Subscribe to our channel, and you'll be alerted to when we do podcasts. Right now, we're doing them at very irregular times and dates, so we're happy for anybody that happens to take time out of their day to show up and be in the chat. Thank you to Danny. Thank you to Pablo. Thank you to Ryan, both Ryans, Mr. Arsenal Podcast and Ryan Cost. Russ, we always enjoy seeing you. Get better soon to your beloved. And everybody else that joined us, thank you for joining us. And this has been Gooners, the Gooners podcast.
You almost fucked it up.
Gooners in America and Gooners in USA. We can't use that anymore. We're going to be sued by the United States of America government. So we are the Gooners podcast. Enjoy it, love it, subscribe to it, and come on, you Gooners.